Today, we are going to talk about a thriller, and it is a weird one. I picked this up because I had liked the prior thriller I read from this author, and the book we're talking about today is The Last Session by Julia Bartz. The other book of hers that I had read that I really liked was The Writing Retreat. All right, so this one, it follows this character, Thea, and she works as an art therapist in a psych ward. And so one day, there's this Jane Doe that comes in. She has red hair and she looks familiar to Thea, but she's seems to be in total shock. She's mute. She hasn't said anything. They have to do everything for her, and no one knows like what her deal is. They found her wandering off by the expressway just like in a daze, and they brought her in, and so she's here. And Thea's trying to figure out why this woman looks so familiar to her. She'll get there. She'll figure it out. Thea ends up trying to talk to her, but as I said, she's mute. She doesn't really respond. She's like, okay, well, maybe you want to draw something or write something down. So she leaves her some paper and a pencil. And then one of the roommates in the room is like, are you crazy? She's going to probably try and stab someone with that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And Thea just kind of brushes it off and like lets her have that. At some point, she's talking to one of the other people that works there, and she starts talking about this movie that like she was kind of obsessed with when she was younger called Stargirl. The leading actress in it was this Catherine, I forget the last name, but Catherine person, and kind of looks like Thea a little bit. She just really loved this weird movie. And it was one of those movies like that was made back in the day, and like Catherine in the movie, she was like 13 years old, and she was like this goddess, and she marries this pharaoh. So it's kind of creepy and gross because she was 13 and the pharaoh's obviously way older. So you have that going on in the movie, and like there was a whole weird situational thing with this other guy in it that she was also connected to and whatnot. And then the reason that Thea kind of like zoned in on this movie when she was younger was because she has some weird effed up like sexual trauma stuff happen with this bully in her school named Adam, and then also this pastor John that would just say really inappropriate things to her and tell her about like the sexual issues he was having with his wife, which she was 13, and there's no reason a pastor should be telling her any of this. And so like the situation in the movie kind of aligned with her personal situation, so she kind of connected to that movie. And then she realizes that this movie and the main actress, she's like, oh my God, that is Jane Doe. That's who's here. And she's like, holy crap. So she goes and she tells her bosses, and her boss is like, well, I don't know, maybe try to talk to her again. And so she goes and she starts saying stuff about the movie, and then the lady comes to, and she tries to stab her in the neck with the pen or pencil that she gave her. And, that other person was still in the room, they're probably like, I told you so. Anyway, that happens. She eventually calms down. They sedate her. She doesn't remember that happened. She apologizes, and Thea doesn't really tell her exactly what happened. And they start talking, and then Catherine is like, I feel like we're connected, me and you. And then they find out they have like the exact same birthday. Thea like starts to get to know her, and she's kind of like, wow, this is crazy. This is this actress that I kind of like idolized when I was younger, this, that, and the other. And then before she can really like get to know her, her parents are coming to pick her up, the Catherine lady. And so the day that they're supposed to come get her, the night before, Thea had gone out. She met this guy who was kind of cute, and the guy was like talking to her, and she let some stuff slip about what was happening with Catherine at her job, what she's not supposed to say. And he's like, oh, when is she getting out of there? And she tells that, oh, she's supposed to be released at 8 in the morning to her parents, da 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 da. And as soon as she says that, the guy's like, oh my God, I have to take a phone call, da da da. He's like, oh, I have to leave, and like leaves immediately. Super suspicious. Hey, okay. That happened, and then the next day, she goes in, and the cops are there, and it's like, apparently, the parents showed up, but they weren't her parents. They were like people in disguise that took Catherine off to somewhere, and Thea's like, oh my God, what the F? And then later, in her art therapy room, in her crayon box, they find a note to Thea that seems like almost like Catherine's asking for her help. She's like, hey, thanks for letting me listen to those podcasts on your phone, da 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 da. And Thea's like, I never let her listen to any podcasts on my phone. That was the other lady that we work with. And she's like, is this like some weird message? Because Thea said she wanted to tell her something before she left and then she didn't get to tell her and da 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 da. She's like, maybe I should listen to this podcast. And she listens to the podcast, and it's these weird, like, relationship healing people. They have like this retreat out in the desert in New Mexico. In the episode that she listens to, they talk about Catherine. And she's like, what the F? So she's like, I think Catherine was sending me a message to like help her. So Thea decides she's gonna try to go across the country to this retreat, which costs like $5,000 too. It's very expensive, not even cheap, to see if she can help this actress because she thinks that she's been kidnapped. Okay, so she leaves her work, and then that guy, the guy she had met that left when after she said, "Oh, she's being released at 8 a.m." He's outside sitting on a bench. She sees him. She's like, "What the f? What are you doing here?" Then he tells her, he's like, "Oh, her parents had hired me. I'm a private investigator. I was trying to track her down. She'd been missing for like 4 years. This, that, and the other." And she's just pissed off because she thought they had a connection when they started talking because they had met at the bar, which I think I failed to mention that when I brought him up. But anyway, so she had been kind of crushing on him. And then obviously he wasn't interested because private investigator is just trying to whatever. Everything was suspicious. So she ends up going across the country to this retreat. Yeah, she's gonna try to search around and see if Catherine's there, but also it's like healing your sexual trauma. So she's gonna have to do like all these different exercises and try to like face head on like the trauma she's had in her past. The people who run this retreat are Soul and Moon. They're like new agey, weird, believe in reincarnation kind of thing going on. And then it also might be that this is a sex cult. So we got that going on too. This book is wild. It's a great thriller. It's super weird, and I flew through it. Really enjoyed my time in the pages. I thought it had a good ending. I thought the writing was pretty, like, just pulls you into the story. It's immediately interesting and weird, and you're like, what the F? This is definitely a writer that I will keep reading in the future. Like, she writes really good thrillers that are weird. If you liked The Writing Retreat, her prior thriller, there's a good possibility you'll like this one too. And if you like thrillers in general that are kind of weird, that involve cults, you might just like The Last Session by Julia Bartz. Also, if you enjoyed hanging out today, hit that subscribe button, come back, see me again, and we'll talk about more bookish things and weird stuff.